Broken 18-year-old ELA, innocent and pure, discovers shocking truth after marrying a cold millionaire. ELA stood at the entrance of her new life, the expansive mansion shimmering like a mirage against the blue Midwestern sky. With golden curls framing her face and a smile that usually lit up the dark, she felt the weight of fairy tale dreams in every corner of the extravagant space. But beneath the sparkling chandeliers and ornate art, shadows began to emerge, whispering doubts that stirred her heart. Ethan, her new husband, embodied every fantasy crafted in her youthful heart, yet, as days drifted into weeks, familiar warmth faded into an unsettling chill. Their marriage promised stability and luxury, yet every interaction turned into a painful contrast to the family traditions she had cherished. Growing up amid family values shaped by honesty and hard work, Ela's heart tugged with longing, each memory milking sorrow from joy. At night, she found herself sharing her worries with her grandmother, sitting in the sunlight-drenched kitchen of her childhood. "You know, dear," her grandmother would say, with eyes full of wisdom, "we stood strong for our worth, even when the world pushed us down." The stories of their struggles clashed fiercely against the opulence around her. Questions raced through her mind, sinking their claws deeper with every passing day. Was she losing herself for the sake of comfort? As she stood by Ethan's side at another ostentatious gathering, she sensed the cold ambition that propelled his empire. It rolled off him like a thick fog, clouding her spirits. The laughter of friends faded into echoes. What was wealth worth if it came at the cost of integrity? Was she now just another ornament in his grand extravagance? Her thoughts spiraled further when she stumbled upon unsettling documents hidden deep within Ethan's mountain of files. The recognition hit her like ice water, a revelation that made everything she loved suddenly feel brittle and fragile. The man she adored was tied to practices she abhorred. With her heart caught in a vice, she felt betrayal color her world in shades of gray. She imagined the disappointment on her grandmother's face upon seeing the very ideals they fought for unraveling before her eyes. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The night of the gala arrived, draped in layers of silk and sparkles, laughter failing to distract from the tension tightening in her chest. She stood beside Ethan, feeling small, while the world around them glimmered. She caught snippets of whispers about his success, yet each compliment felt like ash in her mouth. She realized it was time to face the truth. Everything she wanted was locked behind a key she might never find. As they spun into the center of the grand ballroom, the room's gaze shifted. Her thoughts cascaded like wildfire, igniting memories of her past and the values she'd almost buried. With every glance at Ethan, his smile felt like a tightrope, precarious. Taking a deep breath, the flickering lights above seemed to sense her conflict. The air thickened, heartbeat loud in her ears. "This isn't who we are," she whispered, broken. Every hope, every dream suddenly felt like an intoxicating poison. She was caught on a precipice, and the chaotic reality dissolving around her loomed like a storm. Would she expose the truth and risk everything, or remain silent and watch her identity slip away? The decision teetered dangerously on her lips, with the fate of all she held dear hanging in silence. And the night, heavy as an impending storm, swirled around her in a dizzying haze. Ela's heartbeat quickened, a drumroll of dread and determination spiraling within her. The grand chandelier above gleamed like a mocking eye, and she found herself wondering how many secrets laid beneath its crystal surface, just as hidden as the truths lurking within her marriage. Ethan's hand gripped hers with a possessive strength, and she felt as if she were being pulled deeper into the icy waters he navigated so effortlessly. The smooth evening facade, crafted from silk and varnished smiles, felt dreadfully out of place in her heart. She breathed in sharply, tasting the bitterness of a torn conscience, every fiber of her being urging her to break free from Ethan's enchanting grasp. Surrounded by gregarious laughter and sparkling champagne flutes, Ela blinked back tears. It was a trap, the flow of wealth that lured her in, enticing her dreams while slowly unraveling her essence. How could she enjoy this lavish celebration knowing what she had discovered? Each twist of the dance floor felt like a direct affront to her values, the music an echo of the unfulfilled promises that marred her spirit. "Lori is launching her new collection, a statement of success," an observer remarked, drawing Ela's fleeting attention. The excitement in the air felt palpable, yet it only reinforced her sense of alienation. Success had its price, and for the first time, Ela was learning that it could mean losing oneself. With her sense of purpose steeled, she moved away to gather her thoughts in a more private corner. The kaleidoscope of emotions swirling through her was terrifying, yet liberating. How could she confront Ethan without tearing the fabric of a life he had shaped with ambition and charisma? The corners of her mind replayed childhood memories, the sweat and toil that pounded in her grandparents' work ethics, the steep price of loyalty to one's ideals. She could almost hear them whispering, "Seek your truth, dear. Don't lose yourself for comfort." Ella's fingers curled at her sides, resolve amplifying against her fears. The documents and their implications insisted on her awareness, a reminder that Ethan's success might stem from shadows she'd inherited the misfortune of witnessing. She had been raised to appreciate honesty, to strive for a genuine existence beyond mere monetary gains. As she took a steadying breath, determination brewed within her. A confrontation was inevitable, but she would approach it not as a scoffed rebel, but as a seeker of truth. She needed to articulate how deeply disheartened she was, the erosion of her joyful innocence, and the stark reality of the man she had wed. Clutching her gown, she approached Ethan, his silhouette bathed in candlelight. He was surrounded by admirers, laughter spilling like overfilled cups, but to Ela, the gravity of her trajectory loomed heavier than ever. The moment crystallized, and with it came the realization she wouldn't be a silent partner in this blend of luxury and deceit. "Ethan," she began, her voice barely above the din. The cacophony hushed, her words capturing the attention of nearby revelers. The crowd leaned in, intrigued. "We need to talk." In that moment, she knew she was no longer just a porcelain doll in his vision. She was ready to wield the truth as her weapon, a force that would either unite or shatter their worlds. There was no turning back now. The time had come to face the darkness beneath the glitter. As the whispers grew louder around them, Ela braced for the confrontation a heartbeat away. Would Ethan uphold the walls he had crafted? Or would the truth reshape their fragile existence? The stakes had never been higher, and in the charged silence, her heart raced as she prepared for the clash that would define her future. The silence stretched painfully between them, charged with the weight of unspoken truths and impending confrontation. Ela watched Ethan's face, his deep-set eyes narrowing as he parsed her words. The light-hearted atmosphere that had enveloped them moments before felt like an illusion, one that now seemed poised to shatter. With the audience's gaze locked on them, the dim edges of her surroundings blurred into insignificance. In that moment, it was just Ethan and her. their marriage reduced to raw instinct and undeniable tension. "Talk?" he echoed, tilting his head slightly, a smile forced but quivering at the corners. Ella felt the strain behind the facade he presented, the meticulously curated image beginning to crack under the pressure of her suddenly armed vulnerability. "Yes, right now." The steadiness in her voice startled her, empowering her sense of agency. Just behind their small circle, music pulsed hypnotically, yet all she could hear was the rapid thrum of her own heart. He glanced at the onlookers, assessing the situation with concern veiled under a veneer of charm. "Let's step outside. You know how loud these things get." She followed him, aware that this was her opportunity, the very moment she had longed for yet feared to face. They escaped the din, stepping into the cool night air, freed momentarily from the lavish garb of their surroundings. The stars flickered like distant ambitions, and Ela welcomed their quiet witness as they settled into a shadowed alcove. "What's this about, Ela?" Ethan finally asked, a hint of impatience tinged with annoyance. The grip he had on her hand earlier now felt like a tether to old comforts she wished to dismantle. "I found some documents," she began, her voice trembling slightly as it carved through the chilly air. "They don't add up, or rather, they paint a picture I wasn't prepared for." Ethan's expression transformed, muscles tightening, eyes darkening. "What are you talking about?" Despite the pace of fear that threatened to undo her, Ela pressed on. "The invoices, the accounts, business deals that shouldn't exist if they were legitimate. I know what they represent, Ethan." The revelations of his dealings clung to her lips like a bitter medicine she had to swallow. "You've built this life on lies." His cool facade cracked, showing a fleeting glimpse of something more vulnerable beneath the surface. "You don't understand what it takes to succeed, Ela. This game, it's ruthless. Success shouldn't come at the cost of your integrity," she countered, shock amplifying her conviction. "You made choices that impact us both. How can I stand beside you if I don't know the man I married?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed his features, and for a moment Ela thought she might have touched something genuine within him. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by frustration. "You paint me as the villain in your story. You don't realize how naive you sound." Her heart raced, adrenaline propelling her forward. "Naivety is believing that luxury outweighs honesty. I want to be part of your success, Ethan, but not at the cost of my values." She fell silent, feeling the struggle ripple between them. Could he really claim ignorance, or was he willing to let that truth die in the small breaths between them? He took a step closer, his features hardening as he defined the boundary between rebellion and alliance. "You should learn how to play the game, Ela, before you lose everything." Ela inhaled sharply, another layer of his true nature peeling away. This wasn't just a discussion, it was a battle for her identity, the very essence of who she was about to redefine in a landscape filled with his shadows. "Then teach me the game, if you dare," she shot back, her pulse thrumming with certainty. As the distance closed between them, Ela felt a wave of reckoning washing over her. It was clear she was standing on the precipice of transformation. The future loomed like an unwritten page, and she had the pen in her hand. Would she conform or rebel? "Can you truly bring me into your world, Ethan, devoid of deception?" she challenged, daring him to respond, to reveal whether their path lay toward alliance or fracture. The tension electrified the space, awaiting the answer that would either ground them together or splinter their fragile union for good. In the silence that followed, the stakes felt impossibly high, as Ela braced for the fallout of a truth that could redefine everything. The silence became a living entity as it wrapped around them, suffocating yet electrifying. Ayla's heart raced, a tempest of emotions churning within her. With their lives dangling on the precipice of decision, she felt the resolve grow stronger. This was an inflection point, an undeniable call to action. Ethan stepped back, folding his arms defensively, but his features betrayed a flicker of vulnerability. For years, she had put enough faith in their shared life to overlook the subtle dissonances, the canceled meetings, the late nights, the elusive conversations. Now, amidst the chill of the night, her voice formed words she had practiced in the dim light of self-doubt. "Why do I have to be the one to dig for the truth? Why can't you just be honest with me?" Her voice was firm, echoing determination she had felt throughout their marriage but rarely expressed. Ethan's jaw clenched as he considered her words, uncertainty evident in the shadows playing across his face. "You want the truth? Then you need to understand the stakes involved." Ayla took a deep breath, inviting clarity to settle in her mind. "I am willing to understand if it means saving our marriage. But if your stakes involve deceit, then I need to know what I'm truly dealing with." He remained silent, the tension between them palpable as he weighed her challenge. The stars sparkled overhead, indifferent witnesses to the unraveling of their shared narrative. Seasons of bliss built on half-truths now stood at the brink of collapse. "Trust is built on honesty, Ethan," she pressed. "I can't follow you blindly any longer. You need to let me see the real you, despite the mess it might bring." His walls began to waver. The look in his eyes shifted, the bravado faltering for the first time. "You think it's easy? You wouldn't understand the risks. I've had to make choices, sacrifice, to create this life. Everything you see," he gestured around them, "is a result of my decisions." "Sacrifice doesn't excuse dishonesty." Ayla felt invigorated by her defiance. The more she pulled at the threads of their lives, the stronger her resolve became. "If we are to build a future together, it must be rooted in truth, not illusion." As her words hung in the air like sharpened daggers, she recognized that she had crossed a threshold. There was no going back now. The weight of the decisions ahead pressed upon her like an unseen force. If Ethan could not accept this foundation of honesty, she might need to prepare herself for a different path. "Maybe you are right," he finally murmured, the admission seeming to cost him. "But I can't just lay everything out on the table. Not now. There are things you don't understand." Ella took the step toward him, her presence firm yet inviting. "Then enlighten me. I'm ready to face whatever it is. I won't back down." Her firm gaze invited him to break the cycle of silence and bring their unspoken realities to light. Ethan's eyes softened, and for a heartbeat the tension shifted again. She could see the flickers of emotion, the battle between pride and vulnerability raging within him. "You think you want the truth, but are you prepared for what comes next?" A challenge hung between them, heavy and palpable. Ella felt the air burning with possibility. Each breath she drew in brought her closer to the life she wanted, a life unfettered by secrets and governed by trust. "Show me," she said simply, conviction anchoring her words. This was her chance to dictate the terms of her engagement with Ethan's world. No longer a passive participant, she was demanding her place, one grounded in authenticity and respect. As the gravity of the moment loomed, Ella's thoughts raced, considering the implications of what she asked. Little did she know, the truth she sought might unveil not just Ethan's past, but also the roots of her own identity amidst the shadows they'd shared. With a pulse of anticipation thrumming in her chest, she awaited his response. Would this be a bridge to healing or a gateway to confrontation? Would the revelations deepen their connection or fracture their marriage beyond repair? She realized she was on the edge of a precipice, one that might redefine not just their union, but who she would become in the aftermath of letting the truth in. As the moment lingered, she prepared herself for what that truth would reveal. The air shifted, charged with unspoken revelations. Ella's gaze remained steady on Ethan, the vulnerability in his eyes beginning to unravel the years of facade they had both maintained.
"What's stopping you?" she pressed, her voice low yet unwavering. It was a clear invitation. The threshold of understanding beckoned, and she was unafraid to step forward. Ethan hesitated. The tension glistened between them like a taut wire. She sensed the battle raging within him, a clash of instincts honed through years of suppression. "You know my life isn't simple, Ella. I made choices, and I've worked hard for what I have. But at what cost?" The question slipped unbidden from her lips, piercing through the layers of disappointment, anger, and longing she had meticulously cultivated. Each word drew a line, a demand for honesty. Ethan's shoulders dropped, the weight of her inquiry settling on him like a heavy fog. "This isn't just about us. There are things I did, things I had to do to survive in this world. I'd thought I was protecting you." "Protecting me," Ella repeated. A bitter laugh escaped. "You were protecting yourself, hiding in your nest of half-truths and shadows. I felt the absence in our marriage, the lack of connection. You think the truth will hurt me more
than the lies have?" The battle within him was evident. His eyes flickered with indecision. "You might not be prepared for the truth, not really. The stakes are high. I don't want to lose you, but I can't promise it won't shatter everything you believe in." She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Ethan, every moment I've spent in the dark has made it harder for me to trust. If honesty means the end, then let's face that now rather than dance along the edges of what is real. I'd rather face the truth than live in this purgatory." Their entwined lives began to flash before her like a quick montage. A marriage filled with laughter, late-night talks, intertwined dreams. But all of it now felt tainted by the uncertainty he harbored. Was it love built on trust, or comfort built on deceit? Ethan stepped back, tearing his gaze from hers as though she had set him ablaze. "You deserve so much more than what I can give you, if you only knew." His voice cracked under the weight of his admission. "Then tell me. I need to know. This uncertainty isn't just your burden anymore, it's ours." As her words formed, they anchored themselves to something deeper, the need for authenticity. Ethan's barriers began to crumble, unshackled by her insistence. He started to pace like a caged animal. "I've been involved in things, Ela, things that extend beyond the boundaries of our life together. Business, decisions, power, and the people who inhabit that world." He paused, the tremor in his voice betraying his severity. "They don't just deal in money. There are obligations, loyalties. There are people." "People who could hurt us?" Ela interjected, the shock washing over her in waves. Ethan stopped. Shock waves coursed between them, intense and palpable. "Yes, I've protected you from that side of my life for years, but at what cost? I've hidden the truth from you to shield you, but now you're only deepening the divide." Each word felt like a promise and a threat. "You can't shield me from your choices forever, nor can you hide behind them. We need to confront what's real. Otherwise, we're just shadows passing through a life that should be ours to share." The silence felt like an abyss, and she saw Ethan wrestle with the implications of her words. She stood resolute, her palms wet with anxiety, yet her heart surged with unfamiliar courage. "I want you to let me in," she implored. "It's time I saw all of you, not just the parts carefully curated for my consumption. If we're going to build together, this is the moment we need to create a real foundation." The flicker of a decision passed over Ethan's face, a determination creeping in alongside despair. Would he draw her in closer, or maintain the distance his life demanded? Ela realized she had put her faith on the altar of honesty, and with that came the weight of potential discovery, both a burden and a liberation. "Are you truly ready to face what lurks in the shadows?" he asked, voice barely a whisper, yet imbued with urgency and fear. And while her heart felt pounding, she knew the answer lay not just in her readiness, but in the courage to embrace whatever truths would emerge. A profound shift within her began to blossom, a moment of clarity amidst chaos. As she prepared to navigate this new path, she could feel the very fabric of her identity stretching towards the unknown. In that tipping point, the lines of love and fear began to intertwine, echoing the broader truths that lay ahead. The question loomed: was she now prepared to unearth not only Ethan's past, but confront the very tenets of her own existence? The moment hung like ripe fruit, pregnant with possibility, a catalyst for transformation that both frightened and exhilarated her. In the depth of that confrontation, ELA remained frozen, waiting, ready to face the shadows with whatever strength she could muster. What catastrophe or clarity awaited her on the other side of this pivotal truth? ELA felt the air shimmer with tension, electric and raw. Standing before Ethan, she braced herself against the tide of conflicting emotions that swept through her. The ardency with which she was willing to confront the unknown was eclipsed only by the fear whispering doubts into her mind. Could she truly handle the truth he harbored? "Tell me everything," she urged, her voice now steady though subdued by the gravity of the moment. The darkness of his secrets threatened to engulf her, yet paradoxically, the act of illuminating those secrets became her singular focus. "I've been involved in dealings that go far beyond your understanding," he began, his words tumbling forth like stones from a crumbling wall. "There are people who expect loyalty. I've had to make choices that, well, they cross lines you might not grasp." Ela's heart raced, each confession a hammer striking the foundation of her reality. She forced herself to breathe through the fear swelling in her chest. What kind of choices, and who are these people? The questions edged closer to a terrain she had long avoided, but now felt an undeniable urge to explore. The tautness in Ethan's throat suggested he was choking on the very ghosts of his past. He looked away, tapping into a reservoir of willpower to piece the fragments of his narrative together. "I had a business, one that functioned on negotiation, sometimes manipulation." There was an edge to his voice, regret steeped in guilt. "Manipulation? You mean lies?" It startled her how easily the words slipped from her lips, accented by disbelief. "Is that what you call taking advantage of others?" He flinched, as if she had struck him. "I didn't want to. I didn't have any other choice. I was trying to create a life for us, a life where you'd never have to struggle." His tone verged on pleading, but Ela's mind rejected his justification. What was a life built upon secrets, but a gilded cage? "Ethan, I'm not interested in living in a gilded cage. The truth is not only your burden, it's mine as well." The strength in her words surprised her, but she continued, emboldened by the undeniable bond they shared. "If you want to build a future, it must be built on trust, not shadows." The glow in his eyes shifted subtly, awareness pooling within. "I know. Ever since I met you, the desire to be honest has grown. But those complications linger. They cast a shadow over our lives." Ela inhaled deeply, feeling a fracture inside her that threatened to spiral. "What if I told you I could deal with those complications? What if the truth frees you instead of chains you?" He turned to her, skepticism etched across his brow. "You don't understand, Ela. This isn't just about us. There are people in my world who will not forgive betrayal." "Then let's face them together," she said, a surprising resolve solidifying her voice. "You're not alone anymore. Let me help you, or let's decide this is where we part ways." The clarity in her declaration sliced through the emotional fog that had shrouded their marriage. Ela felt a warming light of newfound agency flicker within. No longer could she accept passivity in their relationship. The time for acceptance was over. It was the time for action. Ethan's resolve flickered as he absorbed her words, but apprehension still tainted his gaze. "You might think you're ready, But do you have any idea what we would be up against? It's not just your heart on the line. It's your safety, your future. Maybe I need to redefine what safety means." As she spoke, her heart surged with determination, a decision cascading through her mind like water overcoming a dam. It wasn't just revenge or exposure. It was a confrontation with her own internal landscape. She would confront the darkness, but this time it would be on her terms. The monumental shift sparked a determination deeper than any fear ever imposed on her life. "I'm willing to take that risk." Time seemed to slow, and she felt their bond resettle into a delineative responsibility, detecting a nagging yearning for respect, for standing in truth together. "How far are you prepared to go, Ela?" Ethan's voice cracked, revealing the fissures of uncertainty clawing at the edges of his control. "Further than I've ever imagined." The words tasted like freedom, and with every heartbeat, the notion solidified. Together they stood at the precipice of discovery, and as uncertainty swirled, Ela closed her eyes, embracing her resolve. This was her catalyst, defying all intuitions. The layers of her identity began to unfurl. The innocent daughter, the naive wife, now met the fierce woman who was ready to grapple with the world in pursuit of reclaiming her life. As they faced the unknown together, it was clear that this journey would unfurl enigmas as much within themselves as around them. Would the evolution of their alliance bloom into resilience, or would the shadows they stirred up become insurmountable? Unbeknownst to them, the winds of fate danced just beyond their reach, whispering of the trials, both internal and exterior, that awaited them. Would they emerge forged in truth or rudderless in deception? The answer lay at the intersection of revelations yet to come. Ela felt the intensity of the moment wrap around her, but beneath the adrenaline surged a newfound clarity. Beneath the weight of uncertainty loomed an urgent necessity. She must prepare herself for what lay ahead. Ethan's reluctance stung, yet it fueled her determination. She brushed back a strand of hair, its silky texture a reminder of the girl she once was, untouched by the world's cruelties. Armed with the resolve forged from a confrontation so raw, Ela could no longer retreat into the shadows of ignorance. If their marriage was to thrive, they needed more than mere faith. They required arduous honesty. "How much do you know?" she pressed, wanting to penetrate the fabric of his secrecy. This wasn't merely about Ethan anymore. It was about herself as much as it was about their future. "Have you dealt with these people before?" He hesitated, a crack through which vulnerability seeped. "I've only dealt with the consequences. This isn't just business. It's personal with those I've crossed. They don't forgive, Ela. They take what's precious." The notion of losing everything gripped her, but instead of retreating, her heart surged. "Then we need to act. I refuse to be a pawn in a game I don't understand. Teach me how to protect what matters." Ethan studied her, a chasm of emotions flickering across his face. Hesitation caught his breath, but empowerment lit hers. "You want to learn? Really learn?" "Yes," she asserted, her voice steady, laced with the gravity of her intention. Within moments, they pivoted towards a new rhythm of their lives. It was no longer mere acceptance of the dark tales woven through Ethan's past. It was the commitment to unraveling them together. With each step, Ela envisioned the armor she needed to don. She would sift through shadows to carve out truth, not just his, but hers. Breaking the nocturnal spell they'd been under, she opened her laptop later that evening, researching the margins of Ethan's hidden business world. Names, patterns, and rules emerged from the shadows, and with each discovery, her resolve solidified into something ineffable. Articulating her strategy felt like summoning a thunderstorm. Each inquiry she fired into search engines brought tangible connections. But it was not the mere act of finding information that ignited the shift. It was the recognition of her ability to sift through chaos and emerge with clarity. This was empowerment incarnate.
Days turned into a meticulously orchestrated choreography between caution and courage. ELA would ask Ethan about potential enemies, the players in his game. "What makes them dangerous?" she demanded as they sat across from each other at the table. "Knowledge and unpredictability," he replied carefully. "They know how to make people turn against each other. Then we must outsmart them," she calculated, her mind already mapping paths forward. "It starts with knowing our weaknesses so we can fortify them." Unbeknownst to Ethan, her willingness to challenge him, morphing the power dynamics between them, became instrumental. No longer just an extension of his past, ELA was carving out a niche, the intricate dance of shared strength unfolding between words and power. But as they prepared, doubt stung. Were they ready to open old wounds? Would the truth unleash repercussions they couldn't foresee? Questions looped relentlessly in ELA's mind, eating away at the sweet taste of determination. One eerie evening, as they combed through background threats lurking in the shadows, a noise burst through the stillness, a sudden crash that echoed through their home. Both froze, eyes locked, their hearts pounding like twin war drums. "What was that?" she whispered, the realization that they might not be as safe as they hoped, pressing against her chest like a bear's paw. Ethan's expression hardened, fear and paranoia flaring briefly before he masked it. "Stay here." But ELA's mind swirled, a tangled web of resolve and caution spiraling around her. She stepped forward, insistent. "We face this together, remember?" It was a defining moment, imperative in their shift from passive acceptance to active confrontation. Would embracing their joint vulnerability fortify their bond? Or would this first clash become an irreparable fracture? As the urgency of their situation escalated, perhaps what they faced would be intricate truths awakening deeper strains within themselves. Tomorrow held no promise of clarity, only confrontation. ELA's heart raced, a blend of fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. The noise had shattered the fragile cocoon of newfound empowerment they had woven around themselves. In that moment, the sanctuary of their home felt like a cage. She could see the sharp lines of Ethan's silhouette, a figure torn between protective instincts and the abandoned thrill of a past he could no longer escape. "What was it?" she urged, her voice low and steady despite the rising panic inside her. Each heartbeat echoed her determination to not merely be a spectator in her own life. "I don't know," he replied, tension tautening his features. "We need to check." Without waiting for a command, ELA followed him down the dim corridor, her pulse a hypnotic drumbeat in her ears. Each step carved confidence into her unfamiliar landscape of fear. She focused on the present, blocking out the reverberations of what-ifs rattling in her mind. In the flickering light of the living room, remnants of a shattered vase lay scattered. The glint of something metallic caught her eye, and as she leaned closer, confusion mingled with understanding. It was a small piece of a surveillance device, something she had only read about in the dark alleys of her research. "Ethan," she pressed, softening her tone to mask the tempest within. He rubbed his temples, the weariness of unspoken burdens pressing on him. "You don't understand. They're watching us. It's more dangerous than it seems." Her confidence teetered on a brink of uncertainties. "But it's our lives, our truth that they're after. We cannot live in the shadows any longer. We've gone too far to back down now." Ethan's gaze held hers, a torrent of emotion swirling between them. He didn't want her to get hurt, she saw it clearly now. But hurt was already at the door, waiting to seize any weakness. "What do you suggest we do?" he asked, a hint of vulnerability giving way to reluctant acceptance. "We must be smarter than them," ELA stated, a flame of determination igniting. "We know their tactics now. We control the narrative of our lives. Together. Together." The word tasted bittersweet on their tongues as they began to seek out strategies. They eschewed ignorance for tactics, diving deeper into the abyss of Ethan's empire, peering at vulnerabilities and strengths. They spent hours going over events in Ethan's past that had culminated in this web of danger stretching above them.
And as they picked apart the layers of deception, ELA discovered connections she never anticipated. The shadows loomed close, but they no longer felt suffocating. Instead, they became the landscape in which she could flourish. She adapted, evolving into an intimate investigator of her own life and marriage. Every piece of information she unwrapped felt like a revelation. Her ability to research, to analyze situations, was something she had once thought she had only reserved for casual interests. This newfound resourcefulness spun out of her desperation, revealing a strength she had buried under layers of self-doubt. Yet, with every step forward, doubt lingered at the edges. Was this revelation a blessing or a curse? Would the truth of the past entwine them closer or fracture them further? The burden of their investigation steeped her in uncertainty. Swirling danger became palpable, and trust wavered in this emotional crucible. While ELA grasped the ropes of power, she couldn't shake the resounding question: were they prepared to confront the ghosts of their realities when they came face to face with them? In a steely resolve forged in moments of clarity, she whispered to Ethan, "It's time we face the real threats, not just the ghosts haunting our past." And as they stood together at the edge of a precipice they had unwittingly created, a single chilling thought gripped ELA. Soon, if they weren't careful, confrontation wouldn't just come from the shadows. It would explode against them in a way neither was prepared for. With that realization, the game was no longer about seeking knowledge. It was about preparing for the oncoming collision of truths. The moment to sift through the impending chaos drew near. Was she ready to embrace the reality of their entanglements and fight for their future? Determined to confront their shared fate, ELA felt a new storm brewing, one crafted from both their fears. Tomorrow heralded a confrontation, but tonight was still shrouded in echoes and uncertainties, where the monsters from their past lurked ever closer. ELA stared into the depths of the gathering storm outside, rain splattering against the windows like a relentless reminder of their encroaching reality. The night air felt thick with tension, as if it carried echoes of their past secrets, words unsaid and shadows unacknowledged. She stood in the kitchen, preparing coffee, the routine act a deliberate distraction from her racing thoughts. The coffee maker gurgled, a sound muffled by the gravity of the situation unfolding around them. Ethan, leaning against the doorframe, observed her. His eyes reflected the turmoil within him, betraying the strong facade he had tried to project. "What's on your mind?" he asked, as if sensing that his question would usher in a silent avalanche of confessed fears. She turned, shattering the cocoon of their quietude. "Every choice has led us to this moment," ELA said, her voice steady yet strained with an undercurrent of urgency. "We need to understand exactly what we're up against. We can't leave any stone unturned." Theme after theme cascaded through her consciousness: betrayal, trust, determination. The knowledge of the surveillance device felt like a serpent curling within her gut. Who else knew? How deeply entrenched were the threats surrounding them? The questions coiled her thoughts tighter, only loosening slightly with the realization that they could fight back. Let's go back to that night, the night everything changed. "We need a timeline," she suggested, an idea sparking in her mind. "By mapping out the events, we can discover more about what was set in motion." Ethan furrowed his brow, gathering the threads of lost memories. "The gala," he started, his voice trailing off as he pulled back into recollection. "There were whispers, people watching. I thought I was just being paranoid." "No, Ethan, you weren't paranoid," she corrected, determination sharpening her tone. "We need to uncover who those people are and connect the dots. If they're watching, we need to know why." A swell of energy surged between them as they began their investigation, their fingers flying across the keyboard of the laptop arrayed in front of them. ELA felt alive in this pursuit, tracing digital breadcrumbs back to a past they once thought sealed. With every name and connection, she flicked aside a veil of uncertainty, slowly revealing a tapestry of deceit that unraveled across Ethan's knife. Friends turned foes, allies hiding in plain sight. Her heart raced, but not with fear. This was empowerment, the thrill of reclamation. As they pieced together data, it became clear that Ethan's empire was woven with both admiration and envy. The more they dug, the clearer the danger came into focus. ELA's analytical mind worked in overdrive, untangling threads of relationships, motives, and connections leading back to the surveillance device they had found. They entered a new territory, marked by risks and revelations. Yet, as ELA scoured the intricate web, she felt the weight of doubt come rushing back. How much of this information would fracture the trust
they had built? Did knowledge come at the cost of a closer relationship? "Ethan," she breathed, heart racing, time shimmering with uncertainty in her chest. "How do we pull this off without losing ourselves?" He looked at her, a fusion of pride and concern in his gaze. And for a fleeting second, she felt the strength in their bond, a shared commitment, even in the face of chaos. "Together," he stated, his voice firm yet soft, a counterbalance to the shadows creeping in. ELA met his gaze, the ramifications of that connection recognizing the stakes. They were intertwined not just through love, but now through determined resolve against the forces arrayed against them. "Together," he stated, his voice firm yet soft, a counterbalance to the shadows creeping in. ELA met his gaze, the ramifications of that connection recognizing the stakes. They were intertwined not just through love, but now through determined resolve against the forces arrayed against them. Their intimacy would be tested, a paradox tethered to their pursuit of truth. As dawn approached, a raw intensity enveloped them, mirrored in their restless anticipation. The time was nearing to unveil the truths lurking just out of sight. They were beginning to paint the landscape of their lives, not just as victims, but as warriors facing the unknown. Their intimacy would be tested, a paradox tethered to their pursuit of truth. As dawn approached, a raw intensity enveloped them, mirrored in their restless anticipation. The time was nearing to unveil the truths lurking just out of sight. They were beginning to paint the landscape of their lives, not just as victims, but as warriors facing the unknown. And as the first rays of light broke through the darkness, illuminating their home, a stark realization anchored itself in a deep crevice of her understanding. Tomorrow was not just the day of confrontation. It would force them to either emerge victorious or unravel at their seams. With every heartbeat, the electric chaos hum grew louder, and ELA couldn't escape the ominous curiosity burgeoning within her. What truths would be revealed in the light, and at what cost? The game was no longer just survival. It was about risking everything for their future. ELA stood at the threshold of her future, a once fragile girl now shaped into a determined woman forged in fire. The revelations of the past few weeks had rattled her to the core. Ethan's world, shadowed by deceit and danger, now lay bare before her like an unsettlingly vibrant tapestry. She had faced the man she married, challenged him, and unearthed truths that shifted the very foundation of their relationship. As dawn's light poured through the windows, ELA felt the remnants of fear begin to recede. The blaring urgency of their circumstances urged her into action. She had not only discovered the extent of Ethan's deception, she had claimed her power.
With that understanding came the clarity of purpose she had sought since saying, "I do." Together, they had delved back into the labyrinth of Ethan's past decisions, their shared moments ripe with tension and unvarnished honesty. ELA had meticulously mapped out their timeline, painstakingly piecing together the series of events that led to the enemies lurking in the shadows. During those grueling nights, an unwavering resolve bubbled within her. Their struggles were not just about overcoming challenges, but about redefining what love could look like under the weight of truth. The morning after one of their most intense research sessions, they made plans to face the complexities head-on. "We cannot wait for them to make the next move," ELA stated flatly as she stood by the coffee maker,
a fierce determination radiating from her. "If we want control over our lives, we must strategically confront them." Ethan's expression was a mix of pride and hesitation. "But if they are indeed as dangerous as we suspect, we need to tread carefully. Every action carries consequences." ELA met his gaze, confidence coursing through her veins. "We've already paid for your secrets. I refuse to allow them to intimidate us any longer. We must be proactive in demanding our truth, a truth that refuses to be overlooked." With each passing hour, the pieces fell into place, and a strategy emerged. They would not only confront the underlying treachery, but also showcase their unified front. ELA felt the thrill of accomplishment and clarity wash over her as she recognized the sheer strength in vulnerability. By opening themselves to each other, they had cultivated a fierce respect that turned uncertainty into fuel for resilience. As they prepared for the confrontation, ELA discovered something crucial within herself, something she once believed was hidden, a personal strength forged from clarity and conviction. She had grounded herself in honesty, in her values, in her aspirations, and in the unwavering commitment to her own identity. By the time they confronted Ethan's adversaries, a notorious cabal of former allies turned enemies, the once wavering shadow of uncertainty had dissipated. As they entered a dimly lit meeting space, ELA felt solid grounding in her presence. With each word she delivered, each truth exposed, the power dynamics shifted. She was no longer the passive participant in a narrative built on duplicity. She had become the author of her own story. The negotiation ebbed and flowed, punctuated by tense exchanges and the revealing of buried secrets. With every detail they disclosed, with every demand they articulated, the hushed tension gave way to newfound respect and acknowledgement. By confronting what had previously shackled them in silence, ELA and Ethan emerged resilient, a testament to the guiding principle that shared truth unites rather than divides. In the respite following their confrontation, recognition flowed between them. Whispers of gratitude exchanged as their lives gradually reflected a reality of partnership founded on understanding and truth. The once cold facade of their relationship thawed, opening to warmth that infused their trajectory. As they stood together post-negotiation, ELA sensed a monumental shift radiating from within. She had faced fear and emerged victorious, no longer swayed by the allure of comfort at the expense of her values. She wore her growth as a badge of honor, a symbol of a woman who had rediscovered her identity amidst the chaos, a woman who understood her worth. In that moment, she realized that it wasn't just about exposing the shadows of Ethan's past, but also about embracing her individual journey of personal growth and empowerment. The tapestry they had woven was a living testament to the power of resilience, understanding, and love built on truth unfurling before them. She felt a profound sense of achievement, the kind that stems not from external validation, but from the deep-seated knowledge that she had molded herself into the person she aspired to be. Standing hand in hand, ELA and Ethan looked towards the horizon, a canvas of opportunity waiting to be painted bright with their commitment to honesty, integrity, and shared dreams. What once felt like a precarious framework was now a strong foundation rippling with promise. They were ready to embrace whatever awaited them.
In this remarkable moment of personal resolution, ELA had not just achieved clarity, she had conquered her fears, proving to herself and to Ethan that the truth could indeed set them free. Together, they would build a future not defined by shadows of the past, but illuminated by the unwavering light of authenticity. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible stories of personal transformation. This is the moment to show your support for our journey together. Leave a like now to help us feed the algorithm and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to engage in the conversation. Comment your reactions and theories about this powerful ending.